Hey guys, so I got back from work about like an hour ago, and I just wanted to make a video and respond to this real quick and try and see if I could come up with a good response for it. Also, me and the person that made this comment, we went back and forth sending messages to each other, and he's actually a really cool guy. Being that we have different views, we still managed to be polite to each other and interact, and I think he's really cool. So he makes a claim that all my objections are dismissible if we claim mysticism, which means this. Or what I really think he's trying to argue for is if we believe that God has infinite abilities and can do anything that we can possibly imagine. By believing God has infinite abilities and can do anything, then it's possible that God could have controlled the animals and stopped them from behaving a certain way and prevented them from eating the prey or eating Noah and any of the other human beings he brought with him on the ark. But if we're to look back at the Ramen Tree's videos, and if we're to look back at the context in which Noah's Ark is brought up in conversations that I've had with atheists or debates that I've had with atheists, Noah's Ark is brought up because we are trying to reason what's the probability that it actually happened. In order to argue from mysticism or say that God acted on that boat and prevented the animals from slaughtering each other, you have to demonstrate that God acts on the world. You have to bring some kind of proof that God acts on the world. If you can't bring that proof, then we can't verify that God acts on the world. So it's not very probable that God acted on those animals or that Noah's Ark even happened, that God did all that. It might just be a story. But by looking at the scientific aspect of it, by looking at the studies that we've had and the studies that we've made via science, it doesn't seem very probable that Noah's Ark happened being on what we analyze and experience via the world. So the question in the air is essentially how probable is it that Noah's Ark actually happened? And if we can't prove that God acts on the world, then essentially we have to rely on science, which we observe the world via. And by looking at science, by looking at the facts, we understand how the world works, and it doesn't match up with what Noah's Ark is claiming. So you can't really argue this position of mysticism or God can act any way that he wants to act and has all these abilities if you can't prove it. Essentially, for that argument to make sense, you would have to engage in the God of the gaps concept. You would have to stick God in areas that you can't explain and essentially believe in something that you can't justify or verify via research, evidence, or observation. And I guess that's really my response. I'm not sure if that's the best response, but that's what I'm thinking off the top of my head, and I even wrote a script.